The Fire of Redemption. My name is Cruz Medina, and my life shattered the day I lost my family. A tragic accident stole everything from me, leaving behind a void of grief that seemed impossible to fill. I wandered through life, consumed by sorrow, desperate for anything that could give my existence some semblance of meaning. That's when I found the Order of Eternal Flame. Or perhaps they found me. Their leader, High Priestess Serafina, was a figure of undeniable charisma. She spoke of unity, purpose, and a spiritual awakening through the purifying power of fire. Her words were a lifeline to me, a promise of a community that understood pain and offered redemption. Drawn by their promise of solace, I joined the order. The members welcomed me with open arms, and for the first time since the accident, I felt a glimmer of hope. They offered a place to belong, a path to healing that seemed almost too good to be true. Little did I know, the price of this newfound sense of purpose would be far greater than I could ever imagine. At first, the rituals of the Order of Eternal Flame were almost serene. We would gather around bonfires, the flames dancing and flickering in the night as we meditated, letting the warmth wash over us. The fire was a symbol of purity and renewal, a beacon of hope in my otherwise dark world. High Priestess Serafina's voice was soothing, guiding us through symbolic gestures and chants that seemed to bind us together as a community. But as time passed, the nature of our rituals began to change. The High Priestess, with her mesmerizing gaze and commanding presence, started demanding more from us. She preached that true purification required sacrifice, and that only by proving our faith through suffering could we attain spiritual awakening. It began with simple tasks, holding our hands close to the flames, feeling the heat without flinching. But soon, these demonstrations of faith escalated. We were instructed to walk through fire. I remember the first time vividly. The fear, the anticipation, the sheer agony of the flames licking at my skin. I saw my fellow members suffer grievous burns, their screams piercing the night air. Serafina would watch, her eyes alight with a fanatical fervor, insisting that their pain was a necessary sacrifice for the greater good. Each burn was a badge of honor, a testament to their unwavering faith. Despite the horrors I witnessed, I remained with the order. The sense of belonging they provided was a powerful lure, more potent than the fear of pain. I had nowhere else to go, no one else who understood the depths of my grief. The need for acceptance, for a purpose greater than myself, kept me tethered to the order. Each day, the rituals grew darker, the demands more severe, and yet I stayed, convinced that enduring this torment would lead to the redemption I so desperately sought. The day I was chosen for the higher initiation will forever be etched in my memory. High Priestess Serafina summoned me with an unsettling smile, telling me I was ready for the next step in my spiritual journey. My heart pounded with a mix of fear and twisted pride. I had endured so much. Surely I could handle this. They led me to a small, windowless room, the walls lined with ancient symbols. As the door closed behind me, I felt a rush of heat. Suddenly, flames erupted from hidden vents, engulfing the room. The heat was unbearable, searing my flesh almost instantly. I could feel my skin blistering and melting, the pain unlike anything I had ever experienced. My screams echoed off the walls, but there was no mercy in those flames. Every instinct screamed at me to give up, to let the fire consume me. But somewhere deep inside, a spark of survival ignited. Summoning every ounce of strength I had left, I hurled myself against the door. It took several desperate attempts, each one draining more of my rapidly dwindling energy. Finally, with a cry of sheer determination, I broke through, stumbling out of the room and into the cold night air. My escape was a blur of agony and adrenaline. The cult members shouted, their voices filled with rage and disbelief, but I didn't look back. I ran, my skin on fire, my mind a whirlwind of pain and fear. Somehow, I made it to the edge of the compound and beyond, collapsing on the side of a road. I was found and rushed to the hospital, my body covered in severe burns. The doctors worked tirelessly to save me, but the scars would never fully heal. As I lay in the hospital bed, the memories of what I had endured haunted me. The screams of my fellow members, the cold, fanatical eyes of Serafina, and the unrelenting flames. These images played on a loop in my mind, a constant reminder of the nightmare I had escaped. The physical wounds were bad enough, but it was the psychological scars that truly tormented me. I had escaped the Order of Eternal Flame, but their hold on me was far from over. As I lay in the hospital bed, my body wrapped in bandages, I began to notice something strange. The burn marks on my skin, initially random and chaotic, started to take shape. They formed symbols I recognized from the cult's rituals. Panic surged through me as I traced the lines, the reality sinking in. At first, I thought it was my mind playing tricks on me, the trauma manifesting in disturbing ways. But then the whispers began. Serafina's voice, soft and insidious, invaded my thoughts. Her words were a constant, haunting presence, echoing the chants and incantations of the Order. I tried to shut them out, but they grew louder, more persistent. It was then that I realized the horrifying truth. The fire that had marked my body had also bound my soul to the Order's dark magic. The flames had seared more than just my flesh. They had imprinted the cult's essence onto my very being. I could feel my sense of self slipping away, the whispers eroding my will, transforming my thoughts. Fear gripped me as I understood what this meant. I wasn't free from the Order. I was still a part of their twisted world. My body and soul were tainted. I dreaded the inevitable, knowing that soon, I would no longer be Cruz Medina. I would become a mindless vessel for the Order's will, consumed by the flames that had once promised purification but had delivered only eternal damnation.
The Shadow of Verity. My name is Sabita Harper, and this is my story, one I need to share before it's too late. It all began in the suffocating small town of Coldwater, where I felt isolated and disconnected. My parents had moved us here when I was a child, chasing some dream of a simpler life. But for me, it was a prison. I craved connection, understanding, and a sense of belonging that I couldn't find in the mundane routines of Coldwater. It was during one of my aimless walks through town that I first heard of the Circle of Verity. They had set up a modest gathering place in an old, abandoned church at the edge of town. The rumors were intriguing, whispers of enlightenment, uncovering hidden truths, and reaching a higher state of consciousness. My curiosity piqued. I decided to attend one of their meetings. The first time I walked into that dimly lit church, I was greeted by Father Gabriel, the leader of the Circle of Verity. He was a man of striking presence, with a calm and reassuring demeanor that immediately put me at ease. His eyes seemed to see right through me, as if he understood all the pain and loneliness I carried. Father Gabriel spoke of a journey towards truth and enlightenment, a path that promised to fill the void inside me. It wasn't long before I became an ardent follower. The Circle of Verity offered what I had been searching for, a sense of purpose and community. We gathered regularly, discussing philosophical ideas and participating in meditative rituals that felt both profound and soothing. The other members welcomed me with open arms, and for the first time in years, I felt like I belonged. Father Gabriel's teachings were captivating. He spoke of peeling back the layers of reality to uncover hidden truths, of purifying our minds and souls to achieve a higher state of being. I was entranced, eager to learn more. to delve deeper into the mysteries he promised to reveal. The rituals, initially harmless and even comforting, were a small price to pay for the enlightenment I sought. In those early days, the circle of verity was everything I needed. I felt connected, understood, and part of something greater than myself. Little did I know, the path I had chosen would lead me into the heart of darkness, and the enlightenment I sought would come at a terrifying cost. In the beginning, the rituals of the Circle of Verity were serene and enlightening. We would gather in the old church, the flickering candlelight casting long shadows on the walls, creating an atmosphere of mystique and reverence. Father Gabriel would lead us in meditation, his voice a soothing guide as we delved deep into our consciousness, seeking hidden truths and enlightenment. These sessions left me feeling calm, connected, and part of something greater than myself. We also engaged in philosophical discussions, exploring profound concepts of truth, reality, and the nature of existence. Father Gabriel's insights were captivating, each session leaving us hungry for more knowledge, more understanding. He spoke of peeling back the layers of our perception, uncovering the hidden truths that lay beneath the surface of our everyday lives. For a time, it was everything I had hoped for, a community dedicated to a higher purpose, a journey towards enlightenment. But as the weeks turned into months, the nature of our gatherings began to change. Father Gabriel started to introduce more intense practices, which he called purification rituals. He claimed that true enlightenment could only be achieved through cleansing our minds and bodies of impurities. At first, these rituals were mildly uncomfortable: fasting, cold water immersion, prolonged meditation sessions. But they soon took a darker turn. One evening, Father Gabriel announced that we would undergo a series of trials designed to test our faith and commitment. These trials were both psychological and physical, pushing us to our limits. We were made to stand in freezing water until our bodies were numb, subjected to sleep deprivation, and isolated in dark rooms for hours on end. Father Gabriel insisted that these ordeals were necessary to purify our souls, to strip away our illusions and reveal the truth. I participated in these trials, driven by my desire for acceptance and enlightenment. But as I endured the physical and mental torment, I began to witness the suffering of my fellow members. Some broke down sobbing, their minds fracturing under the strain. Others emerged with vacant stares, their spirits seemingly crushed. It was horrifying to watch, and yet I couldn't bring myself to leave. I was too deeply entwined with the Circle of Verity, too desperate for the belonging they provided. It was during one particularly harrowing trial that the cult's true obsession became clear. Father Gabriel spoke of an ancient, otherworldly entity known as Nixera. He claimed that Nixera held the ultimate truth, and that by summoning this entity, we could achieve a higher state of consciousness. The rituals took on a more sinister tone, with incantations and symbols that sent shivers down my spine. The air grew colder, and an unsettling sense of dread began to pervade our gatherings. Father Gabriel's eyes gleamed with fanaticism as he described the final goal of our purification, the summoning of Nixera. He told us that Nixera's presence would cleanse us, bind us to a higher truth. But the more he spoke, the more I felt a growing unease. The other members seemed equally entranced, their expressions a mix of fear and devotion. As the rituals grew darker, the sense of community that had once comforted me now felt suffocating. The whispers of enlightenment were overshadowed by the looming presence of Nixera, an entity that seemed to reach out from the shadows, its cold breath brushing against my skin. The Circle of Verity, which had once promised truth and belonging, now felt like a trap, a descent into madness and terror. And yet, I couldn't bring myself to leave. Not yet. Not until I truly understood what lay at the heart of this darkness. One fateful night, I stumbled upon a conversation that would shatter any remaining trust one had in the circle of verity. Father Gabriel, along with his inner circle, gathered in the dimly lit church after our usual rituals. Curious and sensing an ominous shift in the air, I hid in the shadows, straining to hear their hushed voices. What I heard chilled me to the bone. They spoke of a final ceremony, one that would bind our souls to Nixera, ensuring our eternal servitude to the malevolent entity. This ritual would supposedly grant us ultimate enlightenment, but the price was our very essence, our freedom, our souls. Father Gabriel's voice was fervent, almost feverish, as he detailed the steps of the ritual. The thought of being bound to Nixera forever, of losing my autonomy, filled me with dread. Realizing the impending danger, I knew I had to escape before the ritual took place. I couldn't bear the thought of becoming a mindless puppet for Nixera, of being trapped in this nightmare forever. My heart raced as I planned my escape, waiting for the right moment when the compound would be less guarded. Late that night, while the other members were in their quarters, I slipped out of my room and crept through the darkened halls. Every creak of the floorboards sent my heart into my throat. Every shadow seemed to harbor unseen threats. Finally, I reached the edge of the compound and plunged into the dense, dark woods that surrounded our enclave. The forest was a labyrinth of shadows and unseen dangers. As I stumbled through the underbrush, branches clawed at my skin, tearing at my clothes. Panic surged through me with every step, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I could feel Nixera's presence, a cold, malevolent force pursuing me through the darkness. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, seemed to echo with the entity's dark intent. My mind raced with thoughts of the ritual, the horrors I had witnessed, and the ever-present fear of being caught. The forest seemed endless, the darkness pressing in on all sides. But driven by sheer terror and the instinct to survive, I pushed forward, refusing to look back. After what felt like hours of running, I finally burst through the tree-line and onto a road. I collapsed, my body shaking with exhaustion and fear. I had no idea how far I had run or where I was, but I knew I was free from the immediate danger. A passing car stopped, and the driver, seeing my desperate state, took me to the nearest town. I went to the authorities, my voice trembling as I recounted my harrowing escape and the horrors of the circle of verity. They listened with a mix of disbelief and concern, but they promised to investigate. As I began the long process of recovery, both physically and mentally, I tried to piece my life back together. The memories of what I had endured haunted me, but I clung to the hope that I had escaped the cult's grasp. However, the sense of unease never left me. Even in the safety of my new surroundings, I felt the lingering presence of Nixera. Shadows seemed to move in the corners of my vision, and whispers filled the silence of my home. The nightmare was far from over, and deep down, I knew that Nixera's mark on me was not something I could easily escape. It's been a year since I escaped the circle of verity. At first, I thought I could rebuild my life, find some semblance of normalcy. But as I began my recovery, strange occurrences started to plague me. Shadows moved in the corners of my vision. Whispering voices echoed through my empty home, growing louder each day. My anxiety skyrocketed, each whisper pulling me back to the terror of the cult. The whispers became more frequent, more insistent. They weren't just random sounds. They were the chants from the cult, the same dark incantations we had spoken during the rituals. I tried to block them out, but it was no use. I felt an external force taking over, controlling my thoughts, my actions.
It was as if I was no longer alone in my own mind. Then the horrifying realization hit me. The story you're hearing, the voice you think belongs to Sabita Harper, is not mine. Nixera, the one we had summoned, had completely invaded my mind. She was controlling me, manipulating my every move.
The things I have done over the past year, unspeakable acts committed using my body, the things I did with Sabita's body. She is but a vessel now, a puppet for the malevolent entity she tried so desperately to escape. Her body and mind are my own now. The voice you hear, the story you know, I am not Sabita Harper, and I am here to stay. And with every passing day, my control grows stronger through the web of victims that make contact with Sabita's mere rotting corpse. The shadows, the whispers, they are all reminders to make sure a little bit of Sabita can still see what I am doing with everyone she loves. Nixera is here, and I have no intention of living. The dread that consumes this one is unending, for that story is now mine to tell, and this body is mine to command.